Welcome to this course on resiliency. I am looking forward to you taking this course and increasing your resilience and decreasing the chance of burnout. In this 9-lesson course, we are going to learn about how to become more resilient to stress and suffering. You will also learn how to keep from burnout amongst COVID-19. My name is Odell Terrell, known to some of you as LT. I am a licensed mental health counselor. I have also worked in the emergency medical services, EMS, for the last 14 years. I know a little bit about trauma, PTSD, and burnout. EMS personnel and first responders have been dealing with this phenomenon for some time. The physical and emotional stressors, as well as lack of rest, are seen as the major contributors amongst EMS personnel in regards to PTSD and burnout. The aim here is for you to become more resilient after these 9 lessons in your own profession. We will take what I have learned as a therapist and as a first responder and apply it where needed. We will start by explaining what it means to be happy. It is what we all desire, and how we define it will matter to how resilient we will be. We will then do our best to make sense out of suffering. We will discuss how psychiatrist and philosopher Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, found meaning in suffering and helped others survive the atrocities of the Holocaust. We will learn how to bring fear, anxiety, and other emotions under control, avoiding the extremes and walk the middle path. You will learn what it means to practice mindfulness, how to be observant and more present in order to live each moment more effectively. We will learn to be optimists and promote a greater sense of hope. We will learn how to reconnect with the value in the work that you do. There's a strategy in couples therapy where you help your clients rediscover what first drew them to one another. This will be your chance to rediscover and discuss amongst your peers what drew you to your profession. You will also read a story about an African immigrant and how he found his calling to become a teacher in Southside Chicago. You will learn the importance of using each other as a resource and the importance of interpersonal connection with others and how to have positive interpersonal communications with others. We will learn common distress tolerance skills taught in therapy that help you when the stress is inevitable. Lastly, we will bring it all together and hopefully you will be left with some tools to help make you more resilient and avoid burnout in your own profession. Now let us begin with happiness. Resilience leads to a happier life, but there is also evidence that positive emotions and happiness help build resilience, which in turn leads to more feelings of satisfaction and happiness. But what does it mean to be happy? Our understanding of happiness determines how we give meaning to our lives, how we look at adversity, and what we may gain from adversity. It enables us to build a variety of resources. It strengthens those resources, which improves our odds at resiliency. This is where the positive psychology movement comes in. The positive psychology movement is based on a body of research that the psychologists refer to as authentic happiness. Happiness that is separate from mere pleasure, enjoyment, or avoidance of conflict and stress. For these psychologists, authentic happiness is defined as the degree to which one pursues meaningfulness, for example, the ability to use one's gifts and talents not only to enrich oneself, but also to benefit others, healthy relationships, and living a good life. Research shows that the degree which I possess these qualities, the greater my overall happiness and resilience will be than if I was to place my happiness on the pursuit of mere pleasure, enjoyment, or avoidance of stress and conflict. In fact, until most recently, happiness was never defined as a mere emotional state or pleasure. The ancient Greeks called it eudaimonia, better translated to English as flourishing. Happiness, traditionally defined, is human flourishing, self-actualizing, realizing your potential and living your potential. Aristotle, the philosopher from the 4th century BC, had a big impact on our understanding of human anthropology and psychology. There is scarcely any topic he did not cover, including happiness. Happiness was in the good life, he concluded. He asked, is this good life and happiness Some cause beyond the self? Is it money? Is it power? What about the billions of people living on pennies wages in third world countries? Are they not living the good life? Are they incapable of happiness? He also divides the good in two parts: the relative good, useful for something else, like money, fame, and non-relative goods. Goods in and of themselves, like a mountain range, a sunrise, you as the individual. The very existence is a good. He also concluded that happiness is a non-relative good. I want to make one thing clear. It is not that we cannot find happiness in relative goods. These are what we might refer to as second things. Remember, they are only useful for other things, other goods, and not good in and of themselves. And ultimately, we seek these things for the sake of happiness. Objective goods could be referred to as first things. C.S. Lewis noted that when you put first things first, second things are thrown in. Put second things first, you lose both the first and second things. In other words, you get both relative and non-relative goods when you put the real goods first, when you put things in their proper order. Positive psychology does not argue we cannot find happiness and pleasure and enjoyment, but it argues we can have a disproportionate desire for such things, making it harder to find true happiness, persevere, and become resilient. You lose both the first and second things. The one thing we all desire is happiness. It is something we seek as a good in and of itself. We choose all other relative goods for the sake of happiness. Happiness, therefore, is its own goal, a good in and of itself, as Aristotle concluded. One more thing to note of relevance before we move further. Aristotle believed we all seek the good. The will's natural appetite is the good. Love of the good is the source of all our passions. It is love of the good that leads a person to hate or dislike an impeding evil, or be sad at something horrible. It is love of the good that gives rise to hope or despair and sadness. It is love of the good that gives power to anger. It shows that our basic tendencies are naturally good rather than evil. Thus, happiness is found in the good you naturally desire. As a therapist, I appeal to these natural dispositions for the good of my clients. The more developed they are, the happier they will become. But it comes from within. It is not imposed on them from the outside. As parents and teachers, we do the same thing by appealing to our children's natural desires. So that begs the question, which goods bring about true happiness? Eudaimonia. That is where I believe understanding the 4 levels of happiness comes in by Robert Spitzer. Shortly you will have a brief reading on these levels. I try to conceptualize his book in a short essay. Robert Spitzer condenses what the philosophers, psychologists, sages have said for thousands of years. One thing they all pretty much agree on is that there are different kinds of happiness, some more fulfilling and more enduring than others. The most important thing to get out of it is that the higher levels of happiness often involve some pain and requires the renunciation of some pleasure. But that is only because you will have the wherewithal and the capacity to hold on for something bigger and better. It will be richer and last much longer, having a greater effect on our well-being, and thus increase your resilience and lessen the chance of burnout. After reading the short essay, you will be given some discussion questions to discuss amongst yourselves. You will read what some of the other philosophers had said on the subject, compare them yourselves and how they relate to resilience. I hope you enjoy this, and I will see you in lesson 2.